Today's lesson is the distributive property, as we're starting our unit on solving equations. So let's first start off by looking at our I can statements to make sure that by the end of this lesson, these are the things that you want to be able to do. So for starters, I can simplify numerical expressions using the distributive property. That means that expressions that only contain numbers, we want to be able to simplify those. Okay, that's what numerical expressions means. Second statement is I can simplify algebraic expressions using the distributive property. And if you look at towards the bottom, you have 4 examples. Those ones that have variables involved, okay, those are your algebraic expressions. And the numerical and algebraic expressions are really not done in a very different manner, so don't be afraid. Alright, let's start off with our first definition here. It says to multiply a number by a sum or a difference. I'm going to use this so I don't have to write that in. Multiply both numbers inside the parentheses by the number outside the parentheses. So basically that's saying to multiply a number, like in example 1, we have the number 3 by a sum or a difference. In example 1, we have a sum, it's 4 plus 2. In example 2, we have a difference, 6 minus 3. To multiply a number, 3, by a sum, 4 plus 2, multiply both numbers inside the parentheses by the number outside the parentheses. That means you're literally going to distribute, you're going to give that 3 to both the positive 4 and the positive 2 on the inside. So the way in which we would rewrite this to make it easier for us to comprehend is we would say 3 times 4. Okay, 3 times 4. And then notice there's an addition sign right here, so you make this an addition sign. And then you do 3 times 2. So this right here, 3 times the quantity of 4 plus 2, is equivalent, is the same as 3 times 4 plus 3 times 2. Okay, those two things are equivalent expressions. So then let's even simplify this further. Since we know how PEMDAS works, we know we have to multiply first. So 3 times 4 right here is going to be 12, and 3 times 2 right here is going to be 6, and your final answer is going to be 18. Okay, if you notice just below it, if we were to rewrite this and solve it or evaluate it, it's really not done in any different way than example 1. Because here we have a difference multiplied by a number. Just like our definition says, to multiply a number by a sum or difference. Multiply both numbers on the inside by the number on the outside. So here we have, to rewrite it, we'd have 6 times 5. 6 times 5. Here's the only difference. See how there's a subtraction sign inside? Well, you're going to bring that subtraction sign over. Minus 5, or 3 times 5. Okay, now we have this guy right here is equivalent to our original problem. Now let's simplify this guy just like we did above. 6 times 5 is 30. Minus 3 times 5 is 15. And by now you probably know our answer should be 15. In case you're wondering, what I have over here on the right side just looks like a ton of letters. It's actually the very general case, because it means you can plug any numbers in for A, B, and C, and this rule, or this property, the distributive property, is always going to be true. Okay, so A is just our number, like 3, and B plus C is our sum, like we have over here, 4 plus 2. And it's always going to end up A times B plus A times C. So these are just your general cases. So let's do 2 more practice problems before we move on here. It says use the distributive property to write each expression as an equivalent expression. Then evaluate the expression. Okay, well it says 4 times 5 plus 8. So once again, just like above, pause the video really quick, do this on your own, and then look back and see if your answer matches up with mine. Okay, so you should have 4 times 5 plus 4 times 8. And maybe I should have said equals that. So this right here is your equivalent expression. This thing right here is exactly the same as what you have, what you started with. Okay, this is equivalent to this. It's kind of like when you talk about fractions. If you have the fraction 1/2, it's also equivalent to 2/4. Okay, it's just written a little bit differently. So 4 times 5 is 20, because now we're going to evaluate. 4 times 8 is 32. And your final answer better be 52. Now on to our last one, same thing. Maybe you want to pause it, try it on your own. Okay, let's not forget that 2 is going to be distributed to both the numbers in the parentheses. How do you know when to use the distributive property? Well, back up to our definition. When you're multiplying a number, like 2, by a sum or a difference. So anytime you have a number times a set of parentheses, you're going to distribute, okay? As long as there's addition or subtraction in the parentheses. So this is going to be 2 times 6 plus 2 times 9. There's your equivalent expression. That's a terrible parenthesis. So then you have 12 plus 18, and your answer should be, oops, that should be a plus sign. Forgive me right there. Your answer should be 30. Hopefully you're starting to catch on. Alright, that was a really poor circle right there. There we go. Alright, let's go on to our next slide here. Now, we got a word problem. Have no fear, this is really not too bad. It says a canoe camping class costs $80 per person, including the cost for the canoe rental. The cost of food is an additional $39 per person. Please write out 2 equivalent expressions to find the total cost of one trip for a family of 4. Well, you're probably thinking, if I was doing this on my own, I would probably say, well, it's $80 per person for 4 people. So 4 people times $80. If you're going to try and just figure this out without doing anything special, you probably say 4 people times $80. And you also need to add to that, well, it's going to cost $39 for all 4 people. I'm sorry, for each of the 4 people. So 4 times 39, you'd probably add those numbers together, right? Guess what? Doesn't this look an awful lot like we've seen above? That's one of our equivalent expressions. So you could write this just like this guy right here, because technically they're exactly the same, right? Right. Okay. Up above, we went from this side to this side, but it works both ways. If you have the same number 4 multiplied by 2 separate numbers, you can rewrite it like the guy on the right. Okay? That's one equivalent expression. Well, no, that's fine. That looks good right there. So you could write it just like that. Now to find the total cost, you just have to evaluate. So 4 times 80 is $320. And 4 times 39, do some quick math, I think is $156. So your total cost for that class and the food is going to be about $476. Please don't forget to label it dollars. There you go. So folks, the distributive property, once again, when do you use it? You use it when, like on this problem right here on the right, you have a number multiplied by a sum or a difference. So a number multiplied by an addition problem or a subtraction problem. Now for class tomorrow, I'd like you to attempt the last 4 problems, and I'm going to help you with the first one. So if you notice, we have a number, -2, multiplied by, in this case, a sum, an addition problem. So what do I need to do? Of course, I need to multiply that number on the outside by both numbers on the inside. Don't be fooled. That is a -2 on the outside. So -2 times x is -2 times x, or -2x. Then we have that addition sign on the inside. So let's bring that over here. And you have -2 times 4, which is -8. That's your answer right there, unless you want to rewrite it without the plus sign and the subtraction sign. You can write it as -2x minus 8. Alright folks, the next 3 are on your own. We'll see you tomorrow.